This is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. I have another exciting episode for you today. I, go to all the different trade shows to keep up with the natural products industry. I get trade show magazines from the produce and natural food industry. And here's the trade publication of the natural foods industry called Natural Foods Merchandiser. This one's August 2010. Just got this in the mail, and I was excited to see an article that's entitled The Raw Deal. So the Raw Deal article is The Raw Deal, What's Next for Uncooked Products by Joel Warner. And I'm going to quote some things out of this Raw Deal article. Basically, so this magazine goes out to all the Whole Foods and independent retailers that own natural food stores. So all the owners get to read this. So they're going to get to learn about, raw foods through industry publications. So let's read it and share with you what they're learning. So it says, it's popping up more and more on grocery shelves, emblazoned on labels, celebrated in store advertising, cleverly incorporated into the product names raw. Mainstream consumers are joining natural food shoppers in embracing the raw food movement, which promotes unprocessed and uncooked foods and ingredients in the belief that heating destroys enzymes and vital nutrients. In many cities, raw food restaurants are standard, along with markets, meetup groups, and festivals, and more retailers, of course, are following suit. So that's absolutely correct. Raw foods is catching on, and it's definitely about eating unprocessed and minimally processed foods. Let's continue. During the past year, sales of 100% raw food items and products with raw food ingredients increased 6.9%. In the Natural Channel reports Spins, a Schaumburg, Illinois-based market research company. Much of that growth is in the raw food energy bars, which according to Chicago-based research firm Mintel enjoyed a 23% sales increase between 2006 and 2008 and outperformed non-raw bars. So they're saying raw food bars people are buying them. And that's because people want products that are basically whole, natural ingredients. But this is where the article gets interesting. Under a section called Defining Raw, there's no certification or official labeling for raw foods. I'm glad the industry is picking up on that. In fact, many raw foodists dispute whether the maximum cooking temperature for raw food products should be 105 or 118 degrees Fahrenheit. So they're defining raw foods specifically and only by temperature. And if you've seen my other videos on YouTube, raw foods is a lot more than just the temperature involved with preparing the raw food. Raw foods goes much further beyond just the temperature. The temperature is only like a single component of raw foods. A popular nut butter company was contacted and they described their products as raw, but the company machinery reached temperatures between 200 degrees and 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you're buying raw nut butters, in the bottle and jar, you got another thing coming. They're probably not really raw. And that's why when I try to process them at low temperature in most cases, they just never come out as rich as and creamy as in the store. Furthermore, it goes on, talks about, be careful with almonds because in 2007, the U.S. Department of Agriculture ruled that all California almonds have to be pasteurized or flash cooked at temperatures greater than accepted by raw foodists because of salmonella outbreaks. Besides just heating them, they can be chemically pasteurized. So there may not be any temperature involved, but I know, you don't want to eat chemically pasteurized almonds. So in that case, an almond could be considered raw because it wasn't heated too hot, but now they put some pretty nasty chemicals on it. So would you can still consider it raw because, it wasn't heated, but it has these nasty chemicals? So maybe that should be another criteria. But once again, check my other video for more information on defining raw. So new developments in raw foods. This section of the article looks really promising. It talks about the superfood connection. An increasing number of raw food products will involve superfoods which boast high amounts of phytonutrients like antioxidants, vitamin C, and dietary fiber. So I think we're getting mixed up, raw food shouldn't just be about all these superfoods that we have to buy in packaged jars, bottles from countries from very far away. What this should be about really is about nutrient density, and that's why superfoods are so popular right now. It's all about nutrient density and how much nutrition is in that certain item. So could be antioxidants, could be fiber, could be phytonutrients. For example, I'm sitting in my front yard garden and I'm just picked a strawberry. So if I compare this strawberry compared to a conventional strawberry, if I had one next to it, I would bet you my life that my strawberry is a lot more nutrient dense or has more nutrition. I would even rate this strawberry up against an organic strawberry being more nutrient dense. And why? Well, because number one is it's fresh picked. Right after you pick something, some nutrients may lose up to 50% of the nutrition, within 24 hours. And that's most produce that's bought and sold in industry is picked, hydrocooled, and then shipped. And if you're on the East Coast, a lot of it's grown in California, you may be getting it a week later. So, nutrient density is what the key is. It's not about superfoods. And to increase the nutrient density, you want to get things that are A, fresh picked, B, hopefully grown organically and in really rich soil, because the nutrient density of the soil and the nutrition of the soil is what makes the plants and the foods nutrient dense. So I'm growing here in 100% compost with rock dust minerals, which is really important to add the minerals back into the soil so that the plants and the foods have the minerals we need, so we don't need to take mineral supplements. So this will make my strawberries more nutrient dense because the soil is fertile and rich, and most topsoils are devoid of nutrition, and most conventional farmers put in 3 NPK, and even organic growers may not be adding compost and rock dust in. So definitely conventional is probably the least nutrient dense. Then we get to organic, might be better, maybe biodynamic would be better, but then maybe growing your own. And this is where I think the raw foods movement needs to go. I've converted my front yard into an all raised bed edible vegetable garden, and fruits too. And I encourage you to check my other YouTube channel, growingyourgreens.com, to learn how you could do just that. I have over 250 episodes at present time that show you how to grow your own food so you can have the most nutrient dense food on earth. And it's not in a bottle, can, or jar from your local health food store. So let's continue on this article. Some of these superfoods may clash with another important raw food concept, eating local. So what is more local than eating out of your front yard? Another section I want to cover is the sweetest things. Agave and cacao have long been the raw foodist answer to sweeteners. I would highly disagree with that. I've been into raw foods now for 15 years, and it hasn't been my answer to sweeteners at all. From the beginning, I've said that agave is not a raw food product and not a health food product. But according to basically reports have surfaced over the past few years that many of these so-called raw products were subjected to high temperatures and chemical additives in their source countries. So once again, this article has a very limited scope, and it's only perceiving raw as being something that is not heated above a certain temperature, and raw goes beyond that. As I said earlier, I mean, you could add chemicals to something, and is it still raw? Like in the case of pasteurized almonds that are pasteurized with chemicals that haven't been heated. Or something, for me, something that's raw is health building. It's not something that's going to take away my health. Something like agave has really high percentages of fructose. We might as well call it high fructose agave syrup instead of high fructose corn syrup. We know high fructose corn syrup is not so good for us, but just because agave's raw, we think it's good for us now. Oh, it's raw, it must be healthy. No, all raw foods are not always healthy. And also cacao is another big one. There's a lot of research that shows cacao is not really that good for us, especially if it's raw. It's very addictive and has some negative effects. So I encourage everybody not to eat cacao. Eat whole carob pods and carob powders, much better than cacao. Don't have the negative side effects. Carob is really high in fiber. Agave, instead of agave, use fresh fruits would be best. Dried fruits second best, and even something like stevia or even honey in small amounts would be better, in my opinion, than agave. Agave is totally refined and processed product. So what it comes down to is this. We want to be eating foods that are as minimally processed as possible. And some things like agave, you take the cactus, you got to boil it down and just extract it off. Even if it's at low temperature, it could be at low temperature under high pressure, which is not natural. We want the raw foods diet, in my opinion, is all about eating natural foods, fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. Hopefully you grew them yourself, or at least get them fresh at your local farmer's market, and that's what it's all about. The industry here, once again, raw foods is now becoming an industry. there's many players in the raw foods industry that make millions of dollars every year on you buying their products and continually to buy their products, especially products like raw cacao that are addictive. So you buy it once, you get addicted, you keep buying it more and more, and then one day raw foods isn't working for you. Why is that? Maybe because you're not eating fresh fruits and fresh vegetables, but you're eating out of the raw food section in your local store. I think they're doing a great service by selling you some of these products, much better than buying, products that are a lot more processed, because at least these raw food products are less processed. But we want to get back to nature, back to basics, and eat things that are just grown naturally. Fresh fruits and fresh vegetables is where it's at and should be the majority of your raw foods diet. So this is John Kohler with OKRaw.com. We'll see you next time, and keep eating your fresh fruits and vegetables.